Saying that buying luxury has saved me money sounds like the most delusional girl math I have ever heard. Because let's be real, if your goal is to save money, the answer is to not go out and buy a Gucci belt. But when I look at my closet, there are expensive things that I've bought throughout the years that genuinely changed the way that I shop. I bought them, loved them, used them, and then stopped looking for another version. And then there are other luxury purchases that did the exact opposite. I spent a ton of money and I just kept shopping. The question is, did spending money actually make me spend less? Because if you spend $1,000 on something and then immediately start looking for the next version, no, it did not. I've made both mistakes a lot. And so we're gonna go through the designer purchases that I've made that actually earned their place in my wardrobe, and the expensive pretty things that absolutely did not. Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video. As always, we're gonna be doing a deep dive into my shopping philosophy, but this is just such a juicy video where I talk about my designer purchases that I love and my designer purchases that I regret. And not only the designer purchases that I regret, but what I learned from regretting them. And I wanna start off with my first lesson, which took me a really long time to learn, but I truly believe that expensive does not always mean better. I used to be a shoe fanatic. I was designer shoe crazy. I would not only go out and buy a new pair of designer shoes for any given occasion, but I would also ask for designer shoes for my birthday, for Christmas, for any holiday. I would save up money from said holiday, go out and buy designer shoes, whether they were full price. Most of the time I got them on sale, but it didn't matter. At the time, I did not have my 5 shoe principles, as we talked about in my last video. If you missed that video, I will link it here, as well as put it below in the show notes in case you want to check that video out. But my criteria at the time was basically 3 things. Were they pretty? Were they designer? And did I want it? But eventually I looked at this beautiful collection all around me that I had created throughout the years and realized that I just kept buying shoes despite owning all of these shoes. I wasn't filling gaps. I wasn't ending searches. I was just buying expensive, pretty things and simply collecting them. Exhibit number 1. These are a pair of Prada shoes that I received so many years ago. They're beautiful, they're designer, they're elegant. Maybe have worn these 3 times in maybe the last 5 years. And let me tell you, each and every time I have deeply regretted it. So much so that my feet hurt just looking at these. Have since been put on my Poshmark. They are sitting in my closet, my Poshmark closet, collecting dust. I put them up at a really reasonable price if you're interested, and a size 7. I will link my Poshmark down below. But to me, these hurt. They're very uncomfortable. I love how sleek and pointed the front of the shoe is. I love how sleek and delicious that heel is. But the reality for me is that this heel is way too high. I kept looking for simple black shoes, and my Michael Kors Flex Pumps became the black pump. They have the same pointed toe, and this is like the perfect heel height for me. It's not too high, it's not too short. It elongates my legs without leaving my feet screaming. I can honestly say I haven't bought another pair of black shoes since. And I also bought these because I had a pair of these in a nude color several years ago that I wore to my first ever corporate job. And I loved them so much that I absolutely wore them to the ground, which was actually the better investment for me. It was hands down the more affordable shoe. And it's not because Michael Kors is universally better than Prada. It's because these specific shoes actually worked better for my life. Let's talk about a luxury shoe that did work. I had this years-long obsession with chunky masculine flats after seeing someone for the first time wearing them in New York City. Since then, they have definitely blown up. You can find them everywhere and anywhere. Just were not flattering on me. They weren't comfortable enough. I could never find a pair of chunky flats that didn't rub up against the back of my heel. Then came my Gucci loafers. I bought these in the springtime when Mike and I went to Woodbury Commons. Obviously, these are not chunky at all. They have a very skinny sole. They are pretty tight to the foot, but they give me enough masculinity and substance while still working with my proportions and wardrobe. So because of these, I stopped searching. And I'm so happy, so happy with this purchase. And I think that the greatest takeaway from this is that sometimes the product that ends the search isn't the thing that you thought you wanted. It's the thing that actually solves the problem. And luxury had nothing to do with which one won. Another lesson that we commonly talk about here on my channel is that we need to stop shopping for our fantasy life. Beautiful oversized tote with a big, chunky Louis Vuitton Continental wallet, a laptop inside, working from a fabulous little cafe near my house. Oh, it gives me Carrie Bradshaw vibes. It's gorgeous, fabulous, and honestly, the woman I always pictured that I would be when I grow up. And I am still manifesting it to this day because the actual me, the me that you are looking at today, commutes to and from New York City. And when I'm commuting, I carry 2 laptops. I have basically and sadly become a professional bag lady commuter. And when I leave the office, once I get to the city, I want a manageable, smaller handbag that I can just grab when I'm stepping away from my desk, go outside, and feel like a civilized, sophisticated woman. The tote fantasy, it just simply is not my life because of this backpack, because I walk to and from the office and I'm walking a total of 2 miles a day. I've bought countless totes over the years, and eventually I've sold almost all of them. Not because tote bags are bad, but because I kept buying bags, say it with me, for the life I'm not actually living. I got a new job in 2023. I was so excited. And in order to commence this big celebration and just say, you got it, girl, good job, I bought myself a Goyard tote. I did. It was a meaningful purchase. It was a beautiful bag, and I genuinely liked it. But eventually, I wasn't using it enough because, like I said, I couldn't even fit my 2 laptops inside. How foolish of me to even buy this bag without doing my serious due diligence, which I now do. And I love the Goyard look. However, for me, it's kind of loud and it gives daytime only vibes. That's a very specific role, in my opinion, for a very expensive bag. So you know what I did? I sold it. And then I bought a knockoff. I learned that I like the aesthetic enough to own it. I don't like it enough to have the Goyard money tied up in it, sitting in my closet. I use this knockoff bag so much more than I actually used my genuine Goyard tote. Now, that was not the only mistake that I have made, because this is the same exact mistake, but in a miniature form. I love, like I said, a big chunky wallet. Where is my big chunky wallet? It's right here. Let me grab it. I love a big Continental wallet. Something about it screams like businesswoman. I love it, and it's pink and it's so beautiful, right? But I don't carry cash. I need something that can go from a giant commuter backpack, again, to that smaller handbag that I like to just grab, go, run out and get coffee with a coworker, meet a friend after work for dinner, that smaller bag, like this bag. This I oftentimes wear to the office, as well as this red one behind it, the Fendi and my Gucci bags. I absolutely love them. So I need a wallet that can live in all these different places, that I live in, that I use every day during my real life, right? The fabulous Louis Vuitton Continental wallet sits here on my desk, never with me. Meanwhile, the tiny Louis Vuitton pocket organizer, she lives inside my small grab and go bag. She lives in my tote bags, in my backpacks, every damn day. So again, which one was actually worth the money? And in this instance, they're both designer, they're both expensive, but the one that actually was worth the money is the one I'm actually gonna use, the one that actually lives my daily life alongside with me. Something can be beautiful, high quality, and completely wrong for your actual life, because an investment piece can't save you money if you're investing in a lifestyle you don't actually live. Now, this one is fun and a little bit different because in this situation, I proved the need before I actually decided to upgrade. When it comes to belts, I never spend money on belts. I bought cheap belts, they fall apart, they look cheap, I replace them and repeat. It was like a constant vicious cycle. And I grew up in the 90s, early 2000s, where like high-waisted jeans were not a thing. Low rise was in, thank you Jesus that that's not fully come back and been the only style of jeans acceptable in 2026, because I could never, when high-waisted pants became in and they were a thing and I was like, oh my God, this is so lovely. I get to like pull myself in, cinch myself in. That is when suddenly belts, they became a legitimate wardrobe category for me. And my first designer belt wasn't even something that I bought. It was my late great uncle's black and silver Gucci belt, which I still have. I love and adore. This is my first designer belt that I ever had. And it really was the gateway drug to my designer belt addiction. If I could be so dramatic, I should be, because it's true. Don't ask me how this became mine, but to this day, I am extremely grateful to my Uncle Joey for handing down his love, his undying love for designer goods, right? And I have worn this puppy to death, okay? It is battered and it is bruised, and I loved her. And for the longest time, this was the only belt I owned and the only belt I wore. But this belt here proved something before I even spent the money, right? It proved to me that, wow, I am a belt person. I wanted to look for another black belt, but with gold hardware. And so I saved up and I decided to buy this. I wasn't buying another belt because, you know, it was ooh Gucci. I identified the fact that I loved the Gucci belt that I had and that I needed black and gold, because I am definitely, as we all know by this point, very much so a gold girly. I continued adding belts, designer belts specifically, intentionally, because I would identify a gap. I did my research. I decided exactly which belts I wanted. I would then go ahead and save my money, and then I would go out and buy another designer belt. And importantly, okay, it was intentional because they're very expensive. I had to decide, do I actually need this color? Do I actually need this hardware? Does the width fit, and will I wear it? And that made my collection better. There is a difference between collecting things and intentionally building a collection. This has saved me so much money, because I could tell you right now, I would continue to go out and buy cheap belts, rinse, wash, repeat, if it was not for my original Gucci, my vintage Gucci belt. If you've been with me for a beat here, these next two statements may be obvious, but I love jewelry and I love designer. And so designer jewelry, I thought, should be an obvious splurge category for me. This Fendi bracelet and this Louis Vuitton bracelet, basically I don't wear them. And you may be asking why, and that is a fair question. And it's because I have to take them off. They're not solid gold. I can't just put them on and forget about them. And believe me when I say that I do not want another administrative task at bedtime. I just don't. Enter my Cartier collection. Now I know Cartier is expensive, but I am such a Cartier girly. I have my Cartier watch. This is my Santos watch, but I have a watch. I have my Cartier rings. I have the Love ring, the Panthère ring, my Clash ring, the Love bracelet, the Justin Claw. These items have permanent residency on my body. Now listen, I'm not saying that designer jewelry is automatically worth it, because my own collection, it disproves that. I just told you, the Fendi and the Louis, I don't wear them. Luxury isn't necessarily the logo. Put it on, leave it on, wear it constantly. That is the feature and the luxury that I am willing to pay for. And I still wear affordable jewelry. Okay, you guys know that, especially if you hang out here. I don't need everything to be Cartier. I happily mix expensive jewelry with more affordable pieces, because now I know, where do I care to pay the premium and where don't I? Don't pay more just because something is luxury. Pay more when the premium gets you the thing you actually value. All in all, I've learned that luxury doesn't always win. And once I realized this, I started seeing it everywhere. Dior lip oil versus my e.l.f. lip oil. e.l.f. constantly always wins for me. My Prada pumps versus my Michael Kors pumps. Obviously, we talked about it. And Michael Kors wins just because they're comfortable. Shoes that I actually look forward to wearing, not dreading. My Goyard versus my knockoff. My knockoff does the job, baby. It does the job, and I don't feel bad if it's sitting in my closet for a few weeks at a time because my money isn't held up in it. Designer jewelry versus fine jewelry. In my opinion, fine jewelry always wins because, like I say here on my channel, my luxury is not having to think about it. I can slap my jewelry on, shower in it, work out in it, sleep in it. It just lives with me and becomes, again, a permanent resident, a permanent part of my body. The label doesn't get to decide what's valuable in my wardrobe, babe. I do, and so do you. All in all, I think the biggest thing that has changed the way I shop is that I used to ask myself one question and one question only. Do I love this? And honestly, at the time, that was truly enough for me. Now I ask, do I love this? And does it actually deserve a place in my life? Because I can love something truly and still not wear it. I can appreciate something on somebody else and not need it for myself. I can spend a lot of money on something beautiful only to realize that it doesn't actually work for the life that I am living. So now, especially when I'm thinking about spending more on something, there are a few things I try to ask myself. Am I solving a problem within my wardrobe? Is there a real gap in my wardrobe that I'm trying to fill? Does this fit the life I actually live? Not fantasy fortune, not the woman working from a cafe with her fabulous oversized tote and her one tiny laptop, me. My actual life and what that looks like today. Have I already proven that I use this category? My belts are such a good example of this. I didn't need to convince myself that I was suddenly going to become a belt person. I already was a belt person. What am I actually paying more for? Is it the comfort, the craftsmanship, the longevity, the design? Or am I paying because of the name of it? And don't get me wrong, sometimes the name matters. You know, I love luxury, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend for a second that I don't, but I wanna know what I'm actually getting for that premium price. And more importantly, whether that thing matters to me. Finally, if I buy this, is it actually going to make me stop shopping? I've owned very expensive things that made me immediately start looking for something better. Crazy, especially when you spend a lot of money on something. And I've owned things that I bought once, started using it constantly, and basically never thought about that category again. Those are the purchases that have actually saved me the most money. Spending more can sometimes help you spend less, but only when you know yourself well enough to spend more on the right thing. Because the best purchase isn't necessarily the cheapest one, and it's also not necessarily the most expensive thing. It's the thing that works for your actual life. It earns its place, and it finally makes you stop looking. Now I need to know, what is your best and worst luxury purchase? What was worth every penny, and what do you wish that you could get a full refund for? Leave it below in the comments. I love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I love you guys so, so much. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I genuinely hope to see you in my next one. Bye, guys. Mwah.